My husband was having an affair, and his mistress even threatened to kill herself if I did not divorce him. She said, "I am pregnant with your husband, so if you know what is good for you, hurry up and divorce him." I did not argue. I just sent her a box of cosmetics. 2 weeks later, she was the one who called again, crying and begging me to forgive her. It was a gloomy Friday afternoon, the sky a heavy shade of lead gray, as if it were about to collapse onto the silent roof. I stood in the spacious kitchen, slowly slicing thin rings of onion on the cutting board. The faint smell of fried garlic hung in the air, but could not drown out the cold, empty feeling that had been in my chest for months. This house used to feel warm. Now it is only an empty shell, beautiful, but without a soul. The phone vibrated on the table. An unknown number. I meant to ignore it, but somehow my hand reached for it. I am listening. "Who is this?" A woman's voice came through, sharp as a razor, deliberately dragging out the final syllables in a taunting way. "Evelyn, right? This is Sarah." I stopped what I was doing. I set the knife down. Just hearing that name made my chest turn cold. I did not answer her right away. When I finally spoke, my voice sounded indifferent, even though my heart had started to race. "I am listening. What do you want?" Sarah saw no need to circle around the point. She spat out each sentence as if she were throwing stones at my face. "I will just be blunt. I am pregnant with John, 10 weeks along. You know what you are supposed to do now, right?" I narrowed my eyes at the window, trying to hold on to my composure. "Oh, is that so? John has not mentioned it." Sarah let out a laugh. It was a scornful, contemptuous sound. "He does not dare tell you because he is afraid you will be hurt. I, on the other hand, think differently. I believe women should know when to step aside, especially women like you who are already past their expiration date." She spoke slowly, very slowly, each word pressing down on the weaknesses I kept hidden inside. "Take a good look at yourself. You are fat, you are old, and you have that big ugly birthmark on your face. One look at you, and anyone can tell your time is over. What can a woman like you possibly hold on to? No children, no beauty, no charm. A man like John staying with you all these years is a blessing you do not deserve." I clenched my hand, my nails digging into my palm. I forced my voice to stay calm. "I heard you. Do you have anything else you want to say?" Sarah lifted her voice as if she were standing on a podium announcing her victory. "Oh, I do. I want you to divorce him, now. Do not try to hold on. He and I are the real family. He says he has never met anyone as gentle as I am. You are the opposite. You nag all day. You control everything. You are boring. No one can stand a person like you forever." I did not respond. I hung up. Before I could even breathe out, my phone chimed again. An image appeared on the screen. It was a photo of a pale arm with a few shallow scratches, staged to look dramatic and alarming. A new message followed right after. "See that? I am not joking. In 2 weeks, if you are still John's wife, I will make sure everyone hears my side of the story. I will tell them you used money, pressure, and schemes to block our love, and they will believe it. Believe that you are a cruel, selfish, ruthless woman. I and the baby will be seen as the ones who suffered because of you." I put the phone down on the table, stood still for a few seconds. Outside, the rain began to fall, pattering against the window frame. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Quietly. 2 weeks, huh? Fine. 2 weeks is more than enough for everything to be exposed. I turned around, picked up the knife again, and went back to cutting onions as if the call had never happened. But this time, the blade moved with firm, even, sharp strokes. Inside me, a plan was beginning to form. Not one made of screaming or tears, but of the coldest, clearest resolve of a woman who has been betrayed. I heard the front door open softly in the living room. I did not need to look to know John was home. Outside, it was still raining, the dull drumming on the eaves blending with his heavy sigh. I stepped out of the kitchen. John had sunk onto the sofa, his body leaning forward as if he were carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He looked up at me, his eyes deliberately lowered to make himself look pitiful. "You already know, right? I honestly do not know where to start. With things the way they are now, anything I say will feel pointless." I stood still, looking straight at him. I did not say a word. I could feel how uncomfortable John was in the face of my silence. He has always hated it when I do not react, because it means he cannot control the situation. John leaned forward, his voice softening in a way that sounded fake. "Try putting yourself in my place. A man whose wife cannot give him a child while he longs for a baby. What am I supposed to do?" "I am in so much pain, Evelyn. You cannot understand this kind of pain." I remained silent. It was that silence that made John lose his patience. He changed his tone so fast it was almost blatant. "Do you ever think about my feelings? How am I supposed to live, knowing I will never have the chance to be a father? Do you have any idea how hopeless that makes me feel?" I answered slowly, my voice very quiet, but each word sharp as a blade. "So do you? Having an affair and getting her pregnant is the best solution." John sprang to his feet, his face flushed red, his eyes wide with rage. He jabbed a finger at my face as if he were the one who had been hurt the most. "Do not pretend to be righteous. She is giving me something you can never give me. A child. A real home. Take a good look at yourself. You refuse to divorce me, and you force me to live without ever being a real man. Are you really that selfish?" I froze, but before I could answer, John still was not finished. He looked me over from head to toe, his voice dripping with contempt. "Look at yourself. You used to be neat. You used to look passable. What about now? Your whole body is round like a barrel. And that birthmark? Do you think I have gotten used to it? I have endured it all these years. Sarah is different, young, well-groomed, and she knows how to behave. I get to be myself when I am with her." My heart tightened for a beat. Every word he said cut into the weakest places I kept hidden. But I did not allow myself to cry in front of him. I turned away and walked slowly toward the stairs. When I spoke, my voice was so calm, it sounded almost cold. "Are you finished talking? I am tired." I did not look back. I did not let him see the first tear fall. Every word John had just said was like the stab of a knife. But in that same moment, something else rose up inside me. A part of me that was cold, sharp, and frighteningly clear. They looked down on me. They wiped their feet on my pride as if it were a rug. I sat in the dark bedroom, lit only by the warm yellow glow of a small lamp in the corner. Outside, the sky was still overcast, the drizzle tracing faint lines down the window glass. I looked out at the backyard, the rows of dark trees slowly fading into the deepening dusk. My chest felt unbearably heavy, as if every emotion had been dragged to the very bottom. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. Then the old memories, the things I had once thought were the most beautiful parts of my life, came back as clear as a film, starting from the very beginning. I was back on an autumn evening 5 years ago. Manhattan was glowing under hundreds of strands of golden lights that seemed to warm the whole street. I was sitting in a small cafe with dark wooden tables, the sweet smell of roasted coffee drifting into every breath. I was wearing the white dress John liked, my body still slim and graceful. The soft light in the cafe fell gently across my face, softening the birthmark I always tried to hide. John was sitting across from me, his warm hands holding mine, his eyes so tender it made me believe I was the happiest woman in the world. He said each word slowly, like a lifelong vow. "You are the most wonderful gift heaven has ever given me. This birthmark is not ugly. It helps me find you no matter where you are in a crowd. I love you because of it." I smiled, feeling both shy and happy. "Do not say that, but have you ever felt ashamed of me?" John laughed and leaned back, his voice full of pride. "Ashamed of what? I will love you, protect you, and build a real family with you. A spacious house, children running in the yard, and you will always be with me no matter what happens. Promise me, Evelyn." I nodded immediately, my eyes turning slightly wet. "I promise." "I believe you, John." That scene had once been so warm that I truly believed I was loved. Yet now, when I think back on it, every word is nothing but a sharp blade. I opened my eyes. The present faded back into shades of gray. The wind blew harder, the curtain trembling with each cold gust that slipped through the crack of the window. Then my memories took me to another room, a specialist clinic, the smell of disinfectant hitting as soon as we walked in. The doctor looked at us with a sympathetic gaze. I gripped John's hand so tightly I was shaking, struggling to breathe. "Mrs. Evans, your chances of conceiving naturally are very low. We can try assisted methods, but the outcome is still uncertain." I was almost stunned into nothingness. My whole body went cold. I turned to John, hoping to find comfort in his eyes, but his face was locked in rigid silence. No squeeze of the hand, no words of reassurance. On the way home, I tried to cling to a fragile thread of hope. "John, I am sorry. We can still try IVF. I will do whatever it takes. I will try my best." John did not wait for me to finish. "Enough, Evelyn. It is expensive and exhausting. Sometimes fate has already decided, and trying to fight it is pointless." I turned to look out the car window, hiding the tear that had just fallen. The air inside the car felt icy, even though the air conditioning was not set low. From that day on, the house felt unnaturally big. Meals stretched longer because there were fewer words. John was absent from home more and more often. Many nights I sat waiting until the clock struck midnight before I finally heard the door open. John would walk in, a faint smell of alcohol drifting off him. I asked softly, my voice full of worry I no longer even understood why I still felt. "Where have you been out so late? I am afraid something might happen to you." John slumped onto the sofa, pulled off his tie and tossed it aside, his voice snapping at me as if I had just committed some huge mistake. "I am tired. Work is drowning me. It is enough pressure out there. And when I finally get home, I have to listen to you nag me with these pointless questions. Can you just leave me alone for a while?" I stood there feeling like I had been pushed to the very edge of my husband's life, like a stranger who had wandered into an old house where only the cold remained. Early Sunday morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains and fell onto the wooden table where John usually left his phone. Today was the same. He had forgotten it there and gone to take a shower, the steady sound of running water coming from the bathroom right next door. I had no intention of touching his things, but the phone suddenly vibrated. It buzzed once and stopped. Then it buzzed again, harder this time, as if it were trying to get my attention. The screen lit up. A name appeared clearly. Sarah. I froze for a few seconds, my heart surging up into my throat. Then I swallowed it back down and reached for the phone. The screen was unlocked because John had not set a password, Or maybe he simply thought I would not dare to look. The text message appeared clearly. Honey, I woke up this morning missing you so much. Last night was amazing. When are you finally going to tell that dinosaur? I felt as if someone had slammed a heavy blow into my whole body. My heart was pounding, full of both pain and fury. I scrolled down, and the other messages immediately appeared. Sweet little lines, plans for dates, secret meetings carefully arranged, and even photos of Sarah posing in tight dresses, some of them even more daring. My legs could not hold me anymore. I had to grab the edge of the table to keep from falling. The bathroom door opened. John came out with a towel wrapped around his waist. The moment he saw me standing there with his phone in my hand, his face instantly fell. What are you doing with my phone? I turned around and lifted the phone up in front of me. My voice caught in my throat, but every word was still clear. Am I the dinosaur she was talking about, John? And Sarah, who is she to you? He stood still for a beat. Then, instead of explaining or panicking like someone who knows he is in the wrong, his face shifted in an instant to something cold, even a little contemptuous. We went down to the living room. John folded his arms and looked at me with a defiant stare. All right, since you have seen everything, maybe that is for the best. Sarah and I are in love, and she is already pregnant with my child. I opened my mouth, but only a few broken words came out. John, do you understand what you are saying? You betrayed me. You betrayed your own promise. John snapped back immediately, his face flushing bright red, as if he could dump all of his guilt onto me. This is your fault. It is your fault you cannot give me a child. Do you think a man like me does not need someone to carry on the family line? Sarah understands me much better than you do. She makes me feel like a real man. I could not hold myself back any longer. I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. The crack of the slap rang sharp through the room. John raised a hand to his cheek, but instead of looking ashamed, he gave a thin, cold laugh. Go ahead and hit me, but listen carefully, Evelyn. Do not touch Sarah. Do not make her upset. If you do anything that affects the baby, I will not forgive you. I will not show you any respect anymore. I stepped back. My whole body was shaking, and I did not know if it was from pain or from rage. John looked at me like I was nothing but something in his way. Then he turned his back and walked away, leaving me standing there in the cold, empty space. I sank down onto the wooden floor, my hands hanging limp. Tears fell faster than I could stop them. I did not know how long I sat there, only that every sound felt squeezed tight inside my chest. The loving words from years ago, the insults he has thrown at me lately, and now the shamelessness I had just seen. All of it kept spinning in my head as if it were trying to pull me under. Happiness was nothing but a play. Promises were nothing but a means. He had never needed a wife. He only needed a womb that could bear children. And that woman, she thought she had won just because she was pregnant. I wiped my tears dry. The numbness inside me slowly sharpened into something cold. I stood up and walked to the large mirror in the living room. I took in my own face, the birthmark, the dark circles, the exhaustion, all the years I had given up. I spoke softly, each word as clear as a blade. Divorce? No, it will not be that simple. I will not let this house, this work of mine, fall into the hands of a traitor and a homewrecker. Sarah, you want to be a mother, do you not? Good. Hold on to that pregnancy as tightly as you can. I want to see how long you can stay the other woman once everything around you starts to fall apart, piece by piece. What they did to me, I will return it many times over, in ways they could never imagine. The next morning at breakfast, I set out a plate of pancakes, poured a glass of fresh orange juice, and sat at the table. I did not eat. I kept my head bowed, my fingers intertwined. My eyes were red on purpose, letting the dazed look show. Footsteps sounded on the stairs. John came down, his voice curt as always. Starting the morning with that face is a sure way to ruin the whole day. I bit my lower lip, my voice catching. Do you and her really love each other? He let out a relaxed laugh, as if that question were my admission of defeat. She came into my life when I needed someone the most. She gives me the feeling of being a real man. No judgment, no pressure, none of the exhaustion I feel with you. I wiped my tears away, keeping my gaze lowered, my voice trembling just enough. I understand. I do not want to make things hard for you anymore. I only ask that you not rush. Give me a little time to put things in order. He nodded at once, the corner of his mouth lifting as if in pity. Take your time. Just do not take too long. You know she is pregnant. With that, he turned and walked away, not even bothering to look back. 2 days later, I was sitting and reading when my phone vibrated. A text message came in. The sender, Sarah. I opened it. A photo of a pair of Tiffany earrings resting on a palm. The message that came with it appeared underneath. John bought these for me. He said when I wear them, I look even classier than his worn-out ex-wife. I did not reply, but my hand tightened around the edge of the phone until my knuckles turned white. Not even half an hour later, a second message arrived. This time, it was an ultrasound image. In the corner of the picture, there was a line of text. Take a good look. This is your husband's child. Strong heartbeat, stable pregnancy. John says he is sure the baby will have his last name. I leaned my head back against the chair and took a deep breath. But before I could let go of the phone, a third message came in. I opened it. It was a photo of my living room. The very brown leather sofa where I usually sat to read. Your husband already brought me over. He said sooner or later, this place would be my home. The sofa you like to sit on, I am sitting in it now. It is very comfortable. I looked at the 3 photos, the 3 messages. I did not answer. I put the phone down, stood up, and poured myself a glass of water. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a private investigator's office on the 11th floor of an old building in downtown Los Angeles. The room was a bit dim, the smell of old wood mixed with stale coffee. On the desk, a man in a baseball cap set down a thick file with a pale gray cover, and next to it, a small USB drive. He was serious and got straight to the point. As you requested, we have looked into her carefully. This Sarah is not simple. She was married before in the state of Ohio. She has a son, about 5 years old now. I stared at the file, my hand trembling slightly. I opened it and flipped through the first few pages. Wedding photos, the marriage certificate, the birth certificate. They all had Sarah's name. The boy's last name was her ex-husband's. I asked, my voice tight. Where is the child? Where is he now? He looked at me, his eyes growing heavier. She left the child with her ex-husband. She left town when the boy was only 6 months old. She came to Los Angeles to land a wealthy man. Her parents are a school principal and a teacher. They hid what happened by telling the neighbors their daughter had gone abroad to study. They have not mentioned that grandchild once since the day she walked away. I turned to the last photo. A younger Sarah, in a simple dress, no makeup, holding a tiny newborn in her arms. She was smiling brightly, her eyes completely free of calculation. I stared at that face. A chill ran down my spine. Someone who once held her own child like that could walk away without a second thought. And now she was using another pregnancy to steal my husband. I gently closed the file. My hands were no longer shaking. In their place was a strange, steady calm. A woman who abandons her own flesh and blood. Does she deserve to be a mother again? Did she really think all I knew how to do was cry? That night, I sat alone in my study. On the desk was a sea green La Mer Cosmetics box. I carefully lifted the lid and removed the layer of white silk padding. I placed a sealed brown envelope in the bottom of the box. Inside were a copy of the birth certificate for Sarah's first child, a copy of the photo of her holding the baby back then, and a small piece of paper printed in neat, even letters. What will such an exemplary family of educators say about the daughter who abandoned her own child to move to the city and become a homewrecker? The next gift will be sent directly to the Board of Education and to the schools where your parents work. I put everything back the way it was, carefully. Every detail was as perfect as a truly luxurious gift. The next morning, I went to the UPS office on the corner of Sunset. I handed the package to the clerk along with the address of Sarah's condo in West Hollywood. I signed the sender's name in my neat, rounded handwriting, perfectly calm. As I stepped out the door, I paused for a few seconds. I took out my phone and sent a text. Congratulations on soon becoming a mother. I hope this time you will cherish that role more than you did the last time. I am sending you a little gift. Please use it. In less than a minute, the screen lit up. A reply from Sarah. Thank you. I knew you would have to accept it sooner or later. Old things have to make way for the new. I smiled faintly and slipped the phone into the pocket of my coat. That night, I sat alone in my study with only a small desk lamp on. The computer screen glowed in the dark. In the quiet air, the only sound was the steady, precise tapping of the keyboard. I opened the folder I had prepared earlier. A scanned copy of the birth certificate. The photo of Sarah holding the baby back then, along with another set of documents listing the exact time she left Ohio and left the child with her ex-husband. I did not need to write anything else. Not a single line of explanation. I told myself in a voice as flat and sharp as cold steel. Silence is always more terrifying than any accusation. I opened an email tab and entered one address after another. The principal, the vice principal, the department head, the teacher's council. All the people whose careers could collapse with one scandal touching their family. I hit send. The moment my finger left the key, I exhaled. A long breath, light and easy. They teach their students to live decently. So now we will see how they face their own daughter. It was 9 o'clock on the morning of the 15th day. The phone rang. The name on the screen? Sarah. I hit record, waited a second, then picked up. Hello. On the other end, I heard sobbing. Evelyn, please, I am begging you. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. It was my fault. I went too far. I am begging you, please forgive me. I raised my eyebrows, pretending not to understand. What is going on? What are you talking about? She spoke between sobs, her words coming out in broken pieces. My parents, they got that email, that letter, the letter you sent. They called me home. As soon as I walked in the door, they slapped me. My mother burst into tears and my father said only one thing. You are no longer my daughter. I kept quiet and let her finish. Sarah went on, her voice breaking. They said I had disgraced the whole family. They said that in more than 30 years of living decently, they had never had to bow their heads in front of colleagues, and now because of me, they do not even dare go to school. I have made it impossible for them to hold their heads up. Please, I am begging you, Do not send anything else. I am begging you on my knees if I have to. I am begging you, please stop. I set the phone down on the table so her voice would come through clearly on the recording. There was no anger left in me, only cold. The cold of someone who has seen another person's true face and chosen the exact moment to be done. I spoke, my voice light, almost casual. Do you remember how your voice sounded when you said you would kill yourself if I did not divorce him? She fell silent. I went on. Do you remember sending me the ultrasound, calling me a worn-out wife and saying that the chair I used to sit in was yours now? Sarah sobbed miserably. Please, I am sorry. I was young and foolish. I did not think you would go this far. I thought you would endure it like every other time. I truly did not think you would. I cut her off. You were right not to think so. I am not someone who only knows how to endure. And I am not the kind of woman who lets the person who destroys her family walk away easily. I sat up straight, my hands clasped together, my eyes resting on Mr. Miller's folded hands. You are asking me to be generous enough to forgive her. You promise you will take her home. You will cut off all contact with that man. You will make her make things right. You are begging me not to expose those documents, to leave you a way out. I let out a quiet breath and set my teacup down on the table. I looked at each of them in turn. This couple, who had once stood on a classroom podium, now sitting with bowed heads in front of a woman their daughter had called worn-out trash. A part of me wanted to soften, but I did not forget. I did not forget the taunting messages. I did not forget the threats. I did not forget what it felt like to be insulted and trampled on by both my husband and the other woman at the same time. I began to speak slowly. I understand how much you are suffering. I had parents once too. I know how precious reputation is to people who have devoted their lives to education. But tell me, where were you when your daughter threatened to kill herself to force me to divorce, and said she would leave a suicide note blaming everything on me? Where were you when she sent me the ultrasound picture, calling me garbage, a dinosaur, a woman whose body had failed, and using those words to humiliate me? They both lowered their heads and said nothing. I went on, my voice starting to harden. With what she has done, I could absolutely file charges. She spent weeks threatening my life, making things up and tormenting me emotionally. Legally, I am fully within my rights. Mr. Miller lifted his head, the color draining from his face. I paused for a beat, then spoke again. I am not going to do that right now, but I am not promising to stop either. I will give her one chance. Not out of pity, but to see whether she has even a shred of decency left. You want me to forgive her? Fine. Then she has to come here herself. No crying, no act. She has to admit everything to my face and choose to walk away on her own. If she does not, I will not guarantee anything. I sat up straight, my hands clasped together, my eyes resting on Mr. Miller's folded hands. You are asking me to be generous enough to forgive her. You promise you will take her home. You will cut off all contact with that man. You will make her make things right. You are begging me not to expose those documents, to leave you a way out. I let out a quiet breath and set my teacup down on the table. I looked at each of them in turn. This couple, who had once stood on a classroom podium, now sitting with bowed heads in front of a woman their daughter had called worn-out trash. A part of me wanted to soften, but I did not forget. I did not forget the taunting messages. I did not forget the threats. I did not forget what it felt like to be insulted and trampled on by both my husband and the other woman at the same time. I began to speak slowly. I understand how much you are suffering. I had parents once too. I know how precious reputation is to people who have devoted their lives to education. But tell me, where were you when your daughter threatened to kill herself to force me to divorce, and said she would leave a suicide note blaming everything on me? Where were you when she sent me the ultrasound picture, calling me garbage, a dinosaur, a woman whose body had failed, and using those words to humiliate me? They both lowered their heads and said nothing. I went on, my voice starting to harden. With what she has done, I could absolutely file charges. She spent weeks threatening my life, making things up and tormenting me emotionally. Legally, I am fully within my rights. Mr. Miller lifted his head, the color draining from his face. I paused for a beat, then spoke again. I am not going to do that right now, but I am not promising to stop either. I will give her one chance. Not out of pity, but to see whether she has even a shred of decency left. You want me to forgive her? Fine. Then she has to come here herself. No crying, no act. She has to admit everything to my face and choose to walk away on her own. If she does not, I will not guarantee anything. Mrs. Miller leaned forward as if she were about to say something, but only a few sobs came out. I stood up, gentle but firm. I do not need an apology on her behalf. I need a real confrontation from the very person who chose to live that way. I walked them to the door. Before I closed the wooden door, I added one more sentence. Next time, if I have to open this door to her family again, it will be at the courthouse. I hope you understand. I knew the moment had come as soon as they disappeared behind the door. I no longer needed promises, and I no longer needed anyone to beg. The mask of tolerance I had worn for the past 2 weeks was finally off. I sat down at my desk, picked up my phone, and dialed Sarah. I did not wait through more than 3 rings. She picked up, her voice as weak as a leaf at the end of the season. Yes, I am here. I did not bother with small talk. My voice was cold, every word clear. Have you told John the truth yet? There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then her trembling voice came back. No, not yet. I am afraid. I do not know how he will react. I am afraid he will hate me. I pressed my lips together and spoke one sentence, very softly. Then let me help you. You have 24 hours. After that, the entire file will be sent out. This is not a threat. This is a promise. I hung up. I did not need to hear anything else. I knew she would not dare to tell him. And that is exactly why I was ready to strike the final blow. The next morning, I woke up early. I made myself a cup of black coffee with no sugar and set my laptop on the desk. I opened each folder slowly, as if I were preparing a model lesson for a review committee. I drafted an email with a clear subject line. The truth about director John Evans and his mistress. I attached everything. Every piece of evidence of the affair. Screenshots of the messages Sarah had sent me, full of insults and taunts. The ultrasound images she had sent to flaunt her pregnancy, thinking they were her ultimate weapon. I opened the recipient list. First came the executive board of the corporation where John was serving as chief executive officer. Then I added the heads of human resources, legal, and communications. Next came the list of relatives, his sister, his parents, and even the closest friends who had come to my house for dinner, who had watched me smile without knowing there was a knife buried in my back. And finally, I entered every internal email address at the school where Sarah's parents were teaching. Principal, vice principal, teachers' council, union office, parent committee. I drew in a deep breath. My finger rested on the send key. I checked everything once more, without hesitation. I muttered under my breath, "It is over." There is nothing left to hold back. I pressed the button. In just 10 minutes, my phone started ringing nonstop. Messages poured in. One call from John's sister, one from the vice director, one email from the CEO's senior assistant. I did not pick up. I was waiting for the one person who needed to call. And then, just as I expected, in less than 2 hours, the screen lit up with an incoming call. John Evans. I answered. My face did not change. My voice did not change. Hello? What is so urgent? His scream crashed into my ear like a storm. He had lost every bit of self-control. Are you insane? What on earth did you do? You sent that stuff to the whole company, to my entire family. Are you trying to destroy me? I pressed my lips together and looked out the window, my tone as calm as if we were discussing dinner plans. Are you not happy to learn the truth about your one true love? There was a second of dead silence on the other end, and then he roared again, his voice hoarse, furious to the point of madness. That bitch, Sarah, she lied to me. She said she had never loved anyone. She told me I was her first love, and she already has a child, an ex-husband. What kind of woman is that? Filthy, rotten. She does not deserve to carry my child. I said nothing. I just listened to him spill out his hate. And then he ended with a roar. Get out. Both of you, get out of my life. The harsh click of the call, disconnecting, sounded in my ear. I set the phone down on the table and slowly took a sip of tea. A faint smile appeared on my lips. It was not a triumphant smile, not a happy one, just the light feeling of relief when everything that needed to collapse had finally started to fall on the right people. 1 month later, I did not need anyone to report back to me. What had happened to Sarah was everywhere. All I had to do was open the internal social network of my old company, a few private groups in the education world, or scroll through some anonymous posts on women's forums, and her name was scattered all over. No one mentioned Sarah's name with words like beautiful or charming anymore. Instead, there were phrases like homewrecker, who abandoned her child and daughter, of a hypocritical teacher couple. I heard that after the anonymous email began to circulate, the high school where her mother was vice principal had to call an emergency meeting. Students were buzzing about it. Parents sent letters of complaint. Some even demanded to transfer their children because they did not want them studying in an environment where the teacher's family lived a double life. Mrs. Miller was forced to take unpaid leave from teaching and was removed from the awards committee. Mr. Miller resigned, the official reason listed as psychological pressure from personal matters. They were stripped of their roles leading character education groups, and the talks they used to give at conferences about raising decent children were quietly erased from the school's website. As for Sarah, I heard she was hit with a petition signed by residents in her West Hollywood building asking management to terminate her lease because the scandal was too big. Some local news outlets also started to hint at the story. The cosmetics brand that had once hired her for PR quietly canceled the contract. The fashion labels she used to promote deleted their posts all at once. No one spoke up for her. Even a few influencers who had been friendly with her online quietly unfriended her. I heard from a lawyer friend that Sarah tried to approach a few other media companies, hoping to start over, but no one would take her. They were afraid of being dragged in, afraid of having to answer to their clients. She used to go on live streams crying and saying she was the victim of a reputation massacre, that everyone deserves a chance to start over. But under those videos, the comments were nothing but reminders that she had abandoned her 6-month-old baby back then and built her so-called true love by forcing her way into someone else's family. No one believed the tears of someone who had once used those same tears to threaten another woman into getting a divorce. I heard that in the end, she moved out of Los Angeles. No one knew where she went. A few people only said they saw her at the interstate bus station with a suitcase in hand, wearing an oversized hoodie, barefaced, a cap pulled low, holding an old backpack and a paper folder from the prenatal clinic. Someone who once walked into other people's lives with her head held high, slipped out of public life at last, like a quiet shadow. And what makes me smile most is that now, no one calls her the new girlfriend of Director John anymore. They only call her by 3 words now: the child abandoner. As for John, just 3 hours after my email went out, the board of directors called an emergency meeting. Not a single person defended him. Not one word of justification made it into the minutes. They were unanimous. Immediate dismissal for serious violation of the code of ethics, causing direct damage to the company's image and brand value. The chief executive title he had been so proud of was taken down from the company website overnight. The framed portrait in the main lobby was removed, replaced by a quietly empty frame. The speech he gave at an international conference 3 months ago, where he pounded his chest about family values, was erased from every internal media platform. I heard he tried to apply to a few other companies, but each time his file went in, it was sent right back. People in the industry whispered to each other about the scandal. No one wanted to get involved with a man stained by moral misconduct, lies, adultery, and helping hide his mistress's past. His close friends disappeared one by one. The friendly messages they used to send were now left unanswered. His personal social media accounts were quietly blocked. A few people publicly unfriended him. One even wrote directly, "I do not hang out with a man who betrayed his wife and then got cheated on by his mistress." Even his own family turned their backs on him. His sister, who had once thought I was the perfect sister-in-law, called me after hearing the full truth from the recording of Sarah sobbing her confession. She said only one sentence: "You do not need to forgive my brother. I will not either." His parents refused to pick up when he called. I heard that after they received a copy of the divorce papers, his father went straight to their private attorney and had their son's name removed from the family trust. With no home left and no one beside him, he had to move out of the shared villa. The new place was a temporary rental on the outskirts of town, run down, with no security, no cleaning service, and no one waiting for him at night. I heard he went without sleep for weeks, screaming alone in the dark. One night, the neighbors called the police because they thought someone had lost their mind. But when the officers arrived, all they found was a man with patchy stubble sitting on the floor in the dark, eyes empty, holding a wedding photo torn at the corner. I did not go to see him. There was no need. Every goodbye had already been replaced by the court's decision. With full evidence of his affair and emotional abuse, I filed for divorce and won. The court granted me full rights to our shared assets, including the house where he had once pointed and told Sarah, "This place will one day belong to the real mother of my child." That house now has only my name on the title. Not because he gave it to me, but because the law recognized it, and because I deserve it. I never had to throw him out of the house. He walked away on his own, in shame, in loneliness, paying exactly the price a traitor like him deserves. That morning, I walked down the front steps, pulling a charcoal gray suitcase behind me. I paused for a moment and looked toward the living room inside. That had once been the place where I hung our wedding photos. It had once been the place where I believed I would spend forever with one man. It was also the place where I cried, where I shook, where I heard people call me useless, and it was there that I began to rewrite my own ending. I let out a soft breath. The door closed behind me. I know some people will probably say I was too cruel. But if you had ever stood where I stood, felt what it was like to be betrayed by the person who shared your bed, to be smeared, threatened, treated like an obstacle in the twisted love story of a third party and a lousy husband, you would understand that I held back for a very long time. If you are watching this story, there is one thing I want to tell you. We as women are not as weak as people think. We can hurt, we can fall, but we will get back up. And when we do, we will never be the same women again. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. If this story feels worth your time, leave a comment, share how you feel, and do not forget to follow the Revenge Diary channel so you will not miss the next journeys toward justice. We will meet again in stories where women are silent no longer.